Dr. Quinn, you came very highly recommended, and you're a noted expert on EMDR, among other things. And we're so grateful that you're here with us on the podcast. And we'd love for you to share with us briefly what's your role at the EMDR Institute. Tell us a little bit about what you do and in your day-to-day life in Israel.
Thank you for having me on. I am a psychiatrist and been trained in EMDR. I'm the director of the EMDR Institute of Israel. There's another institute, but I'm of that institute. And amongst other things, well, of course, I receive patients, and I also do trainings to train others. I'm a trainer of trainers, so that I will train people who then will go on to train many more people. During my work with the EMDR, I've also gone to different countries in the world where I've run these kind of trainings. After the tsunami in 2003, I took a team, and we trained 200 therapists to go down in Thailand in terms of after the tsunami had hit. And these types of trainings are done for free. It's called the Humanitarian Assistance Program. There were also was in Zimbabwe, and now what's going on in this situation, amongst others.
Wow. Can you briefly share what is EMDR?
Okay. EMDR stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. It is a lot of words, but it is, let's see, how do I describe it? EMDR is a actually complete, unique, comprehensive psychotherapy that was developed by Dr. Francine Shapiro, that she discovered by accident. That she was walking in a forest and had a difficult thought that came up, and then she noticed she was feeling better. And she said, well, what was I doing just before I was feeling better? And she noticed that she had moved her eyes back and forth. And then she actually did this actively, thinking of something that was bothersome, moved her eyes back and forth, and she felt further better.
What does it mean by moving your eyes back and forth? Is it kind of like rolling them?
Well, people, what she would do is just spontaneously. If I just spontaneously do it, you probably can't see it, but my eyes are going back and forth. What she did is she would use the hand for patients to follow the hand, the fingers. We have also machines that do it now. And so somebody's looking from right to left, right to left, right, left. For about a minute, and what she put together this kind of action together with the memory, the targeted memory that's very bothersome, and it would become less bothersome. And she was dealing with a veterans, where veterans go. She had a group of about 22 patients, and we scale the distress that people have from 0 to 10. And in terms of traumatic, 10 being very, very highly traumatized, and 0 not bothering them. And then after doing this kind of treatment, thinking of the event and doing this bilateral movement, which has also extended on to self-tapping, or can be sounds from side to side, people get better. So people who had terrible stories of a level 7 type of distress would come down to 1, and it would last. So it was found to be initially used for PTSD. Then it was expanded to go into anytime where someone thinks of a memory that bothers them, and they have a memory that bothers them, a past memory that bothers them in the present, and this process would be done with them, and they were able to resolve it. So many people who had these very significant child types of trauma have also been able to be helped. So it's ended up being, as I said, a integrative, comprehensive treatment. Although specifically in this time, the use of it for PTSD, for bringing down the horrible images, and allowing people to recover, it is being used widely.
So you are in Israel now, and
Yes.
you have been practicing EMDR on, has it been soldiers? Has it been people who have been witnessing trauma within their families or have witnessed, we know the horrific things that are going on in Israel, people who have witnessed those scenes? Is that, who are you practicing?
Yeah, the groups are anyone that has been traumatized, the people that I will see. So I've also worked with those themselves who were in hiding for 30 hours, every moment thinking they were going to die. And so that the ones that then survived that massacre. So I've worked with them. I have also worked with police and other people. So it's really anybody that has these difficulties we can be helpful with.
So for example, the people that were in hiding for over 30 hours and then you worked with them, what number were they at? And then through working with them, did the numbers lower yet?
Let's say the 0 to 10, they were easily at a 10. That was about, maybe someone had a 9, but it's really been that they're at that very high level. It's also a different type of trauma that we're seeing now than what we've usually seen. So we've had the missiles landing, we've had the terrorist bombings go off, but they're a one-time event, and it's a very relatively short exposure if somebody is harmed. But this was 30 hours of being constantly worried that something was going to happen to them. So the magnitude of that is us really taking an ability of then gearing the treatments that are proper for them.
And how is that going?
It's going, it's going well. It's just to be clear, the standard EMDR protocol that is done is usually started a month after someone's had these kind of events. Mm-hmm. So it would still be early for us to be doing regular EMDR with them. However, what I developed was called immediate stabilization procedure, and that was able to be working on people in the minutes to hours after a traumatic event. I'd be volunteering there, and I would be there when something was happening, and in a very short time I'd work on it. With them, I had an ability of lowering their distress level in a significant way in that early time. It has been used in the Ukraine also. It's called an immediate stabilization procedure. It's been used in Ukraine, and they had success, very good success with it. But then the more usual time to start doing EMDR is after maybe 2 or 3 days or a week. And then we have these groups, these kind of treatments. One of them is called recent traumatic episode protocol. It's also done as group. This is where the episode is said from the beginning to the end, and then they will target individual distressing types of things. So these kind of early interventions have also been found valid and have been used all over the world, and so this is the next level. So 0 to 3 days is the ISP, and then in that first month can be these kind of treatments, and then after that, people even who have PTSD 60 or 70 years later can actually resolve those traumatic memories.
Wow! So in the 1 to 3 days, well, everyone's in the now. That's what's happening now. What exactly is it that you do in the 1 to 3 days? This new developed thing that you.
It is on Zoom. I've been doing it because I did it through the problem when people had corona, and but it's more usually it's done face to face with a therapist. But so this is done in a way where where I have patients be tapping right, left, right, left, right, left, and with it, finding out what the issue they're dealing with, that we would use positive statements to enable them to internalize, but they have to be true statements. So people that have been in a traumatic event, those people will have the view, for example, I'm in danger. Now, it's not I was in danger. They're saying I am in danger. And so the positive statement that we say over with this bilateral tapping is that you're safe now from that past event that's over. And so it's really saying and clarifying it. But people often have the vision of this going over and over and over in their head. So it isn't automatically understood that way. There's also in these situations a great sense of lack of control, of people being not in control, helpless and powerless. And in those kind of cases, we were using the positive statements are, you can learn to handle it. You can learn to have the control in those areas that within your framework. You can have a reasonable amount of control. So those are used, and then that can be helpful for them.
I just wanted to share for those who are listening, when you said tapping, it's tapping on the opposite shoulder, like tapping your hand on each shoulder.
Right. One after the other, right, left, right, left, right, left. It can also be done tapping on their knees. Is also something that someone can do. That process of the tapping does have a calming effect independently, but when it's connected with that positive statement, it's very effective. One of the hardest types of things is when somebody feels guilty that they did something wrong. That would be harder to work on. Well, it is in any therapy, but certainly in this case. And there we would say, you did the best you could at the time when you made that decision or you did that act. And
have you been hearing a lot of that? Like, have family members been feeling extremely guilty?
Well, the people that have been in these, have been there in over 30 hours. Yes, they would have. It was almost universal that people would say, I should have done something. I should have saved my friends. I should have done something, and to be able to get out of to do something. And that was probably one of the most difficult things that those that had in that area had been in the Army. They were excellent fighters, and if they had available the weapons that they needed, they would have been able to fight back. But that's exactly the kind of thing they were feeling guilty. And then it is also not uncommon that a person who survives when someone else doesn't, that will be the kind of survivor guilt that they can have.
How has that been for you, the experience of meeting people who have been through, and your fellow Jew who have, and you've been living in this environment that, with a lot of fear? Have you experienced fear, and was it difficult for you emotionally?
It was the development of what enabled me to deal with all these things was that I got trained in EMDR in 1993. And it was with that kind of a training that I often, from that time on, we had the first Gulf War, which was very, very trying we were trying to take our two children that we had to carry into this sealed room with three children that walked when the missiles were coming, and we had no ability of knocking them down at that time. And that we had to then seal up the room because we thought that there was going to be biological chemical warfare from Iraq. But so when I had learned this treatment, that was when I started to volunteer during all of those situations in when we were having attacks. And that was empowering me to be able to help people and to have one less victim that I would be able to work on. So when there would be anything that would happen, I would be running towards where everybody else was running away. And I would be volunteering. Ashdod and Sderot, I volunteered, and that was something that was very important. And I wasn't in Nahariya, just to give you an example of the warning time that you have. In Jerusalem, the missiles, at least coming from south, take a minute and a half. So when the siren starts, we have a minute and a half to do things. In Ashdod, it was 15 seconds. And in Nahariya, it was 3 seconds to get into the bomb shelters. So that's what has gone on in these different countries. I mean, different parts of Israel. So by going in and helping people to be able to deal with things, and in the I had wanted to go in Nahariya, which is at Israel's northern border. I wanted to go into the hospital because the hospital is 4 floors underground, and they said to me, "Oh, we don't need you there. What we need you is in the bomb shelters." Yeah. So then that's what I did, and I kept running all the time between the bomb shelters. Yeah, I had somewhat of a prayer. I said, "God, I know I don't deserve to be protected right now because I chose to do this crazy thing, but please." And it seemed to work. And then so we would work. I would work in the bomb shelters. Then it was helpful to them. We also we have a protocol that's for children, so that also can help. But
so when you say that, first of all, kol hakavod to you and thank you for everything you're doing for Am Yisrael. That's really, it takes a lot of courage, and Hashem presented you an opportunity and you took it and that makes a big difference. Each life makes a difference, and mental health is vital. And like you say, it helped these people. Even just a little bit of help goes a long way.
Yeah. And by the way, that's what you see in this country on an incredible level. The way that people are organizing now, not even through governmental sources, but just grassroots people are having WhatsApp lists to be able to get to find somebody doesn't have clothes, from when they had to leave. So they put up a WhatsApp and then people contribute their clothes. But it's an incredible group.
It's a resilient people who are there for each other.
Yes.
I want to ask you actually, because you didn't mention this city. Have you heard of Ofakim? Because my daughter is in Yerushalayim, and she actually just went there tonight to deliver food. And she said that there was still blood on the floor, and like people were in a lot of distress. And it was heartbreaking to hear. They went from house to house delivering food and talking to the kids. But she said that it's a disaster over there.
When she's saying out of fear they were on the floor?
No, there was still blood on the floor. Like there was, yeah.
Yes.
It hasn't really been cleaned up.
Okay, now I understand. Yes, it's this is what's happened. It's usually Israel after some sort of a terrorist attack or when there's blood, they usually move very fast to remove all of that, to make sure that people don't get traumatized about it. But now there just hasn't been sufficient time to be able to do the things that they would have done. So all of these further traumatizing people have
Right.
even afterwards is because things still are there in this terrible way.
So is this one of the tools that you would give everybody, like even our listeners, to cross their hands over and give positive affirmations?
It is that's in essence, yes, it can be. It's just also it's a question of what is the statement they're saying to themselves, because I think that it's mostly, if you're having your listeners, it's a group that is feeling out of control, because it's not them feeling guilty, it's not them being in present danger, but it is their sense of being out of control, of seeing these horrible pictures, and the pictures may not leave their memories. So that would be something I can learn to handle it. I can learn to deal with it. And the combination of the self-tapping as well as saying, I can learn to deal with it, because that's a true statement. And we always learn to deal with it at some point. So that could be helpful for people.
There's been a lot of talk about, watching the videos that are going around, and some of them are very graphic and traumatic. And some people are saying, watch them so that we can understand the magnitude of what's going on. At the same time, for some people, it's just simply too much to view these graphic images. What would you say to that? Should we not watch them from a trauma perspective, or, watch them, but work through it? What's your take on that?
I would say categorically, don't watch them. Because for example, some scenes are something that would not easily get removed from your memory. And it's not serving any purpose, because just to hear someone had been raped, that's enough. You don't have to actually witness it. Absolutely have prescribed times for watching the news and not keep it on all the time. And certainly when you get to anything graphic, don't look at it. It just serves you no purpose. And so that's pretty clear.
The only reason why I thought maybe it does serve a purpose is for people to be able to see how evil Hamas is, and that there is, you know what I mean? It gives validation to we cannot deal with these people.
Well, it's really then showing those people who would think otherwise.
Right.
That's who you'd be showing those
Right.
videos to. But the people who would get bothered by them, then you have to recognize that it's something that has created vicarious traumatization around the world. I've had to, for example, send this by protocol to England, because so many of the Jews there were being traumatized by all of the media that they were seeing. So it's vicarious trauma. Yes, I highly suggest not to look at them.
So what could we tell our children who are vicariously experiencing this through their parents' reactions to events? How can we soothe them? What do we say to them that can help them manage whatever level of trauma they're experiencing vicariously?
What would be the reason that they're going through vicarious trauma? You mean they have it comes on television, or it comes on social media and they see it?
Well, they're also even just hearing what's going on. They might have friends and family they know in Israel. They've been to Israel, or even if they haven't been to Israel, they're hearing the news, and there's a war going on. I don't know. Don't you think that could affect a child?
Yeah, it can. Is that what you're seeing? Is that what people are reporting?
I mean, I haven't seen that in my children necessarily. We talk about it a lot. I have 3 children in different places in Israel. I have one in Yerushalayim, and one in Paras Chana, and one in Hebron, actually. and they ask about them when we talk about it, but I haven't seen trauma. I was just wondering if it's going, and maybe there are some listeners that do feel their children are traumatized. I was just wondering, even if you don't see the trauma, if it's going to have some kind of effect. Like post-Holocaust, there was an effect on the next generation.
Yes. And it is something that that can, they can also talk through. They would be able to talk to the parents and express what they're feeling. The EMDR is also done with children, and children respond to it really quickly, especially when the parent may tap on their shoulders instead. So it can be something that can be of help, but most often the recommendation is to have somebody professional to do it if it's severe. If it comes and it goes, it doesn't stay, it would not need treatment. And our brains, God has done a really good job of creating our brains to be able to process very difficult things successfully. So that would be, if they need it, you can do something. If not, you just explain it and let them talk about it.
So this might be, this is, I would say, the worst experiences Israel has had in decades, if not forever. Are you hopeful that we can get through this, and that the people who suffer trauma, that this can be, that we can successfully work through this horrific chain of events? How hopeful are you?
I am completely hopeful. I am completely, again, as you know, how can you say anything about 100%? But the traumatic events, the awfulness of what it was, and what it still is for the hostages, but they will eventually, when the ones that are have survived, the system and the network, the ability of connecting with people is really a key element to allow people to deal with these traumas. So they will be recovering by themselves, and then the other ones will be able to get the therapy. There are many of the therapies that work, and the EMDR is one of them. It's just so incredible to see how the country has just pulled together. Everybody, I mean, just everybody is donating time, is donating money, is donating clothes and everything. And so that's the other thing. One of the elements that allows a traumatic experience to be dealt with is community. Right. And Israel certainly has that. And Israel has had the most incredible ability to take any disaster that occurs, and we've dealt with mainly the man-made disasters, and then come up with a solution. So in the first Gulf War, when the missiles were landing and we had nothing to do, but we did get into the bomb shelters, and those were helpful. But and I say that what's gone on in Ukraine is what we had in 1991. But then each war and each conflict, then Israel solved. So when the Second Intifada was going, nobody could go downtown Jerusalem because of the fear of how likely it was for bombs going on. And they'd have all sorts of gates off, and you'd have to be, people would have to look in your bag to make sure that there wasn't a weapon there. And now you go into Jerusalem and people walk around, there is nobody that really is worried in Jerusalem. Everybody walks freely. Then all the missiles that were going back and forth, then Israel had developed the Iron Dome, and then they have the Sling of Galilee, and then the Arrow missile, so that they ended up solving, because there's virtually no one that's been getting killed now from the missiles themselves. So Israel had come to a solution to that. And I firmly believe that they're going to do it again now. They'll learn what they need to, and they will then take care of this. And it is likely not to be our last challenge, but it is something that I fully believe that Israel. I am very hopeful in terms of Israel.
Do you see a difference in the way that people of Israel, you mentioned community and how important that is in healing, a difference in the way the people of Israel, I guess, recover or heal from these types of traumas compared with other countries who, may not have that same sort of like brotherhood or Kol Yisrael or Revim Zelazeh philosophy?
I don't think I'd be able to answer that. What is the beauty of this treatment EMDR? It works in every country. It is present in every country, so that it is a wide network of people. And for example, I've been having EMDR therapists from all over the world wanting to volunteer, especially with the ability to do Zoom. It's hard to tell the differences because when they have something that they get better.
Well, I was kind of thinking in line with what Eda said, that giving it's amazing to see how giving of yourself can be a form of therapy. Because I was watching one of my children who's in Israel, my daughter, who was at first watching everything that was going on, and she looked traumatized when I FaceTimed her. Then the next day, she kind of started to find a purpose. She started volunteering to take food to some of the villages and to send letters to the soldiers. She was gathering kids to write letters for the soldiers and people who are in need. And all of a sudden, she was alive and felt uplifted and inspired. And I was like, wow, giving is therapy.
And yes, that is exactly when you ask how I deal with it is. And that the people I'm training in EMDR, and they're doing it, and we have, now we're doing a lot, doing seminars. That is what happens. People say, "How can you stand hearing these awful stories?" And the fact is that when you're working with them, they get better, and then myself feels empowered because they're getting better. And then the story doesn't have the same effect. So it is an event that did occur in terms of the psychological trauma. And then they are not traumatized, or it's a level of trauma that is manageable. And that then is empowering to therapists to be able
yes, that's amazing. I must say also my son, who's in Hebron, he's been putting tefillin on the soldiers, and he's in Hebron surrounded by Arabs, and he just feels very inspired because he's able to contribute in some way.
Yes.
But then you have all of us in America, and I think, or Australia, around the world, wherever everybody is, who wonders how, like, they wish that they could contribute in some way. And that can be hard when obviously it's harder for the people in Israel because I guess there's the fear. And then for the people outside of Israel who feel like they want to help somehow and they can't. But yeah. But I just want to tell you in our introduction to this episode, we were looking for ways that we can contribute. And we are on a spiritual mission in that we can connect to every Jew by saying Tehillim, by doing a good deed, by doing a good deed for another, because as the Jewish people, we are all connected. So the power of prayer, the power of doing a mitzvah, of being there for your fellow Jew, whoever it may be.
Absolutely. The warmth that we've received from people all around the world also gives us strength to be able to deal with these things. So, in the same way that so I absolutely agree with what you were saying. Well, I don't know if I want to give this. No, I'm not going to give that study. But just to basically, I'm going to just agree with that.
We can't hear the study.
What?
I'm very curious.
It's a study I didn't want to give because it's a very interesting thing. You know how they talk about placebo effect, that, like you give sugar water and somebody's going to get better. So there's been studies done where the ability to do something makes the difference between what happens. So they've had two mice in a cage, and they're getting shocks in their feet in exactly the same amount. One of the cages, they don't have anything they can do. In the other cage, they have a lever that they can press. And the ones when they've done the experiment, they take out the ones that couldn't do anything, and they're sick and they die. It's really terrible. And when the ones that could press a lever, that even though it didn't have an impact on lessening the shocks, they were healthy, they were resilient. So the idea of, in a positive way, the idea that we are that we're doing things and helping others and praying for others and all of these things really make a difference for all of those that aren't able to be here doing what they would like to.
Well, the saying, the only thing to fear is fear itself.
Well, I think that example that you shared is empowering, because I think it gives us a lot of hope. And coming from you, who has seen quite a bit, a lot of trauma, a lot of heartache, and you're saying that we absolutely can get through this, and there's absolutely a path forward. Mm-hmm. That in itself is very encouraging and comforting for us to hear.
Yes, I firmly believe that, and don't have a doubt about
it. It was President Roosevelt that said the only thing to fear is fear itself. I just wanted to know, yes, this is, I love hope, and we don't want to give up on hope, So to hear that from you is very encouraging. At the same time, what would you tell someone who is feeling fear right now? There are still captives that we want to see released, and their families are living in fear and wondering how they're doing. What would you say to someone who is experiencing fear?
Well, first of all, let's also make a distinction between fear and something else, because fear is when there's actually an experience of something that's potentially dangerous. And so it's more of an anxiety that they're experiencing, and a sense of helplessness that they're experiencing in terms of their families. Again, maybe the idea of the loss of them. The way of approaching it is letting them do whatever it is that they do, in the meantime, till they find out what's going on, in being able to pray, to be able to be with friends and be with a support system. And yeah, you're right about it. It's actually a fear, so I won't qualify that. And then what happens if some people are in a place where they can't manage it, where it's just too much, then it's turning to a professional, where there's an ability to help them then manage what they're doing. So we have social work psychologists going to the places where dead bodies are, and when they have to identify someone. So those are also, it's very difficult. There's lots of places where things are.
Yeah, there's mothers who have sent their children off to war, mothers and fathers, parents, siblings.
Yeah.
They might be experiencing that. I mean, not might. I can't imagine what they're going through.
Mm. Yeah, it's well, I'm thinking about we had all of our girls were in the Army as well as our son, and our son was a commando. And so so how did we deal with that? Is it was really a combination of two things. We really trusted that the Israeli army would train him well and didn't want to waste their investment. A little cynical there. Um, and praying. And so we didn't stay in a state of worry because we couldn't do anything about it. And he was
You know what the definition of that is?
okay.
It's bitachon, having
Yeah.
trust in Hashem. That
Uh-huh.
it's not in your hands. We do our part. It's in Hashem's hands.
Yeah. And that worked. It was also helpful that he didn't tell us anything that he was doing, and when he would be, when we called him and he'd be away, and then we said, "Where were you?" I said, "Oh, I was just watching television, so I just didn't feel like answering you." So we didn't get the stories at all from him, and yet he was in the attack dog unit. And he had two of his dogs killed. So we knew he was doing more than he was letting us know about. But yeah, he got through it, and we got through it. And
Hashem.
there's so many people that everybody knows people and that are now mobilized. So there's no one that's unaffected by things. But yeah, the way to deal with it is the way that we do. And what we do realize is that Israel is extremely well trained and they develop things. And yeah, it's but God determines what goes on.
May He
So
make
EMDR
miracles.
yeah. So EMDR is very specialized and requires training. And is there any way to, I guess, like a cheat sheet for a quick fix of EMDR? Let's say for someone listening who's interested but doesn't have access to an EMDR therapist, is there something that they can do? I know we mentioned tapping and the right and left arms. Is there anything
and positive affirmations?
Yeah, that's right.
First of all, there's no such thing as not having accessible an EMDR therapist, because since EMDR therapy is everywhere in the world, and the EMDR therapy can be done on Zoom, so people can actually turn to EMDR therapists in different places and actually get help. So
Wow.
there isn't such a place that I've been in yet that didn't have access to an EMDR therapist.
So can we put your link in the podcast notes? Are you available, or you're very busy at the moment?
No, you can put yes, you can put my
your link,
my
your information.
Yeah, the EMDR Institute of Israel, the Gmail site.
Okay, we will do that.
So if our listeners want to participate in helping and making a difference, is there any way that we can help in your efforts and what you're doing now in Israel?
I might be able to answer that a little bit later, because in a couple of days, because I am planning now to go down to the hotels that are in the Yam HaMelech, where those that survived are there. By the way, they did a very wise thing, which hadn't been done previously, and they put all of the people in a city or a moshav were from the same moshav in the same hotel. So they made sure that the entire hotel was a support system. So I'm going to be finding out more about what those needs are. And with that, then there would be able to consider. We also are having many of the people who are EMDR trained around the world that are contacting us. So we're trying to find out how to utilize those people if we need it, because we have so much. So I thank you for offering to help in some way, and
please let us know. We would love to, and I have no doubt many of our listeners would love to too as well.
mm-hmm.
You know, we I don't know if you're open to doing this, but we usually end with a quote that inspires you, that
or a billboard headline, like if there was
a headline on a billboard, or a message, some message that you would like to share with our listeners.
That is helpful.
That is helpful or uplifting, or like you shared before, you have a lot of hope. If you have something hopeful for us. I
get what I'd like to just take is a quick journey to a woman that I treated. I'm not sure I told you or not. You'll tell me if I did. But there was a woman that I treated during the Intifada, when two suicide bombers blew themselves up, and she was injured, and she was looking at all of the mayhem that was there, and she was saying, oh, I can only see evil. And then after doing the EMDR on her, and then she said to me, when she looked out, she said, and now what I actually see is all of the people that are trying, that are coming and helping, and the good outweighs the evil by thousands.
Like a little bit of light can dispel a lot of darkness.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is inspiring. And for her to have gone through the other extreme, from one extreme only seeing evil, and then to come out seeing the good, and that just shows that the truth prevails and good prevails, no matter how evil someone is. I mean, you couldn't get more evil than this.
No.
We have come out so strong and resilient and good to each other that no evil can destroy us.
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you. I know it's late in Israel. Gosh, what time is it there? Is it almost?
You know, not only you do go out, and I mean, this is very special that you took the time to speak to us, to inspire people around the world and uplift them, and for us to hear some practical ways that, even if we're, sometimes people feel like, well, who am I to say that I feel like I'm experiencing something difficult, when people are out in war, or someone's a captive, or there's family members that have been lost, but everyone's going through their own thing. And for you to come on here from a war zone and share your pearls of wisdom and advice and hopeful words with us is very inspiring to us. So thank you.
Thank you for inviting me, and we should be looking forward to things going well soon. But
yes, may Hashem be with you, and may we hear good news, and may we experience peace and miracles in Eretz Yisrael.
Amen.